Hey guys, welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm coming to you today from the Chambers in Town.
High Street Chambers.
High Street Chambers in Town. We're recording in so many amazing locations lately. I'm so happy to just be travelling and doing stuff again. I was just sat in Daily Brews and I was just watching the market all being put up and people hustle and bustle. And I was thinking, this was being attacked not long ago. Before we weren't going to see this again, so it was really nice to see. And today, I'm very, very pleased to be joined with our mayor.
Hello.
How's it going, Julian? You good?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah.
And I wanted to make a tradition of the mayor coming on the show, so we can get to know the mayor.
Yeah.
And of course, the last mayor was only mayor for a short while, so we didn't have time to get her on. Phil Gillam came on the show, but yes, I'm presenting Julian Dean, our mayor. So how has it been for you since you become the mayor? Because it's only been a short while, hasn't it?
It's only been where are we now? Towards the beginning of July, isn't it? So nearly 2 months.
Yeah.
And it's still relatively quiet. There's not so much happening, obviously. We're not out of lockdown yet.
No.
And but it's been nice. I think the thing, I was nervous about it, to be honest with you. So, for example, I don't have a religious body in my body, but I've done one church service already, and that was actually lovely. It was up at St George's, which is in my ward where I'm a councillor, and the local vicar there, Tim, I already knew. And he was very welcoming, and it was really interesting, actually, interesting service. It was a 100-year celebration of the local Royal British Legion branch. So that was nice, and generally, I'm just sort of getting out and meeting a few people and just having nice conversations, and that's just really interesting.
I mean, of course. I was speaking to Phil. He was very much the same. He was like the becoming a mayor ceremony is such a nice thing to be a part of, and that's all for you. It's almost like a wedding day for you. You become the mayor, and all the noise and it's all for you. Was that quite daunting for you?
It was, but again, it was a very scaled down thing this time.
Of course,
so it was all in. We did the mayor making, as it's called, in
the mayor making. Beg your pardon.
That's all right. In Theatre 7, in the I forgot what it's called, in the smaller theatre. But we were all spread out around the whole room, and we all had screens between us, and so there was normally you'd get some of the other ex-mayors would be in there, and we'd all be dressed up, and so that didn't happen. So it was just me and the new deputy mayor who actually got dressed up and came in and signed bits and pieces and read declarations and little speeches, and Phil very kindly did the proposal speech for me, which was lovely. So it was nice, but it was definitely low key in comparison to previous years.
Yeah, it must be like, why this year? Why of all times? Why this year? If I became mayor, I'm just saying, like, in the future, I want it all. I want the whole ceremony. I want bugles. I want red carpet. I'm joking. Of course, I'm joking. But before we go into sort of like you become the mayor, because I've got a few questions for you. Yeah. I'd like to find out a bit about you. Yeah. So where do you begin? Where do you hail from?
Where do I begin? Okay, so I was actually born in Hackney in London, but I grew up in Bridgnorth.
Okay.
So, I think my parents moved out of London pretty quickly, and then we spent, I think, probably about a year and a half in Wolverhampton when my brother was born, and then we shifted over to Bridgnorth, and so I went to primary school in Bridgnorth. But I actually went to secondary school in Telford because both my parents were teachers, and this was in the 70s when Bridgnorth was still doing the 11 plus. And my parents were very committed to comprehensive education, and so they didn't want me to do the 11 plus. They wanted me to go to a comprehensive school. So I actually went to Madeley Court in the 70s.
Oh wow!
And actually, I've got a lot of positive stuff to say about that. Not everybody does, but I had a really good experience, and in particular, it had a remarkable music department, really fantastic. But at the same time, aircraft going past.
Very loud airplane.
Yeah.
Quite interesting what it is, huh?
Yeah. So at the same time, I was always interested in politics, and hence ended up as a councillor. But there was those two things, music and politics, were always sort of competing for me. So my experience in Bridgnorth was that even as I was going to secondary school, I sort of was a bit involved in the Bridgnorth sort of music scene or art scene, I suppose. There was this fantastic sort of rock club. It was organised like a folk club, but it was playing rock stuff, and it was on at the theatre on the steps in the.
I imagine a bit like George McFly. I guess you weren't ready for that yet.
People just turned up and played, and I ended up in a band out of that as a teenager. Wow. So that was fantastic, and so I was doing all the sort of traditional school music stuff. So I was not in the top symphony orchestra ever, I'm afraid. I did play with it once because I was one of the few saxophone players in the county at the time. But generally, I was in the sort of concert band. But I was also sort of doing Telford Youth Jazz Orchestra, and I was sort of lead alto for that, alto sax, which is sort of traditionally the leader of the band. And I was playing in bands in Bridgnorth. So I was in this band called Roll Up Rock with a couple who ran it, lived in Leighton. Okay, so that was all Bridgnorth, and then I went off to university in London. So I went down to London in 1980 and did a degree in politics and history. So it was always tough for me to decide which way to go, music or politics, but that was the way I ended up going.
From music to politics, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it was always both for me, So I went to London and did my degree and stayed and worked in first of all in Camden Council and then in Newham Council, and those were sort of jobs in housing related stuff. So I was in Newham as a homeless persons officer. And the story I always tell about that is that when I first got the job, it was about rehousing homeless families. And by the time I finished, if I'm honest, the job had become find an excuse not to rehouse the homeless family. And it was horrible and I hated it. So I got out and I retrained to, we were declaring people what's called intentionally homeless, which was just an appalling thing to do, in my opinion. Because it was often because people. This was at a time when interest rates were shooting through the roof and people couldn't afford their mortgages, and they were getting declared intentionally homeless for it, and therefore only getting temporary accommodation rather than getting properly rehoused in council homes. So I got out of that, retrained, and then this was my return to music. Actually, I retrained to teach music. Actually, I name dropped because Madeley Court had this really interesting music department in the 70s at school. I knew that the teacher training college would have heard of it, so I said, because I didn't have a music degree, but I said, no, I went to Madeley Court, and they said, oh, that's really interesting, come and we'd love to meet you. So I went in and managed to wangle my way in to teach music, to train, and then I taught in London schools for 10 years. I taught in Hackney, first of all, and then in Islington. But people think round here people probably think Islington is all sort of shushy and trendy. Actually, South Islington is all council estates, and that was where the school I was. So it was a tough school,
challenging, I imagine.
Yeah, but it was great. Actually, I really did enjoy it. So and then in '98 I had a son. So me and my then partner, we had a son, Rufus, and I think then we started finding ourselves sort of finding London a bit tough going. And so we started thinking about moving out, and coming back to Shropshire was always an option because my dad was still here. He'd moved to Shrewsbury by now from Bridgnorth. But actually we went to Brighton but we only did 12 weeks. It all went really badly wrong. But
I'm sure Brighton's a lovely place. I'm sure
I loved it. I loved it, but our experience of it didn't work. So we ended up in Shropshire. We ended up going back to Plan A, came up to Shropshire. Actually lived in Leighton on the Bildorf Road with Mary, who was, by now she'd lost her husband, and I was in the band with her in the 70s, so it was all circles coming round. Yeah, so ended up there, and then we sort of found our own place in Coalbrookdale, which was, I love Coalbrookdale, that was great. Then sadly we split up and I came over to Shrewsbury. And and I had my own place in Shrewsbury, and then got together with a new partner, Debbie, and that's great. But we've moved slightly, so I'm in Shrewsbury now.
Wow,
that was a long.
It's really interesting though, because I do speak to a lot of people that move from sort of a Shropshire background, to the hustle and bustle of the city, and they just somehow end up back in Shropshire. It's just very interesting how that, whether it was whether you're meant to come back or not, it's very interesting. It really is. I started off in Telford, Wrexham, Telford, and then Shrewsbury was just one of the most amazing places I'd ever been to, and I wanted to bring my child somewhere where I thought he'd get a great upbringing. So I came here, and I've loved every single day I've lived in Shrewsbury. Honestly, I was walking up today. I'm carrying a bag that's like 20 kilos with massive weights and microphones and stuff, and it's not bothering me because I'm looking up and I'm like, this place is just stunning.
Absolutely. I mean, it is that business about it being just the right size. It's walkable. I mean, not from every part of Shrewsbury, obviously. It's but I'm lucky enough to live close enough to the centre that I can walk in or cycle in.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Absolutely. I mean, the Quarry Park is just ridiculous. When you get used to it because you live here, but you have to remind yourself that it is just a ludicrously pretty park, town park. And then the buildings in town. That you've got so much history in the buildings in town. It is really attractive. But I do miss London. I do miss that hustle and bustle. I miss the diversity. I think it's a great city. Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose you don't know until you live in a city whether you could deal with it or not. I never have. Lived in big towns. I tell you what, no, I do actually miss Bellevue. I lived in Bellevue, and I'm not saying that's a big city, but it's as compared to where I am now in Sutton Grange, there was the traffic and the noise, and there was a bit of hustle and bustle there. It's quite nice. I miss that. So, like with this beautiful town that we've got now, the buildings and it's got a lot of prestige about it. So, becoming the mayor of this town, does that add a lot of pressure to you, or were you just excitement?
That's interesting. It didn't feel like pressure. It felt. I mean, I was nervous. I still am a bit nervous about it because you're going to be in, because it's new. Because you're going to be having all sorts of experiences you wouldn't normally have. Because you're going to be mixing with, some of the sort of, some of the more senior members of the town, if you like. Some of the more, the sort of
the Shrewsbury Biscuit,
Yeah. Well, absolutely, yeah. And that's not my circle. I've had to sort out my suits, a little bit. Although actually, they're all from charity shops. But
nice.
I'm very pleased.
Really like that.
We have some great charity shops, along with other good shops. So yeah, I was a bit nervous, but in terms, I suppose, no, I didn't feel pressure in terms of the nature of the town. But it is. It's a cliche, but it is an honour, absolutely.
Yes.
Because and you do have to sort of bear in mind that you're representing the whole town. So obviously, I've got my own opinions about all sorts of things. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ended up in politics. But I've got to sort of just take into account that that's not what I'm there for. As the mayor, I'm there to represent the town.
Yes, of course, and it is a great town. I think I'd find myself looking back at like Book of Mayors or something, and just finding pictures of mayors from years gone by, and be like, this is what he did, and this is what he did. This is how he dressed. Have you found yourself looking back at past mayors and what they did and what they represented?
No, I'm afraid not. No. I'm very aware of Phil because I think why is that? I suppose because maybe I was beginning to think about standing for mayor at some stage. By that stage, and I was just enjoying what he came up with. His love of the Beatles came through. He did a Beatles weekend.
Shout out to Tim King, bless him.
I think he jumped out of a plane as well, which I'm not going to do. I'm sorry, that's not me. No. I mean, I have got a couple of initiatives, but they're more about getting other people to do stuff than me doing.
So let's talk about that. As your initiatives, what are you thinking?
So well, come back to music then. So I think one of the things that's been really hard for the last, year and a half through the pandemic has been the lack of live music, and musicians themselves have just had absolutely nowhere to play. They haven't even been able to rehearse together. And so it's been really, really tough. And so I want to celebrate the return of live music when we finally get there. So that's going to be a sort of two-part thing. The first bit is the idea is a photo shoot, and this is loosely based on this fantastic photograph from 1958 in Harlem in New York. It gets called A Great Day Out in Harlem, and it's this amazing shot outside one of those sort of classic brownstones in Harlem of all the jazz musicians of the time, and 1958. Anybody who knows jazz history, it's a pretty special time of.
It's the pinnacle.
It's just incredible. So there's all these amazing people gathered outside this building. But there's been a documentary about it, and there's all sorts of lovely photographs of them sort of getting together and being gathered and all that. So I want to do something a bit like that, get all the Shrewsbury musicians together that I can. We've got a couple of venue ideas for where to do the shot, but it's now 2021, so it won't just be a single photograph. We'll do some video shots. I've got somebody involved who's going to do some drone shots, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it could be really fun. And then on the back of that, I'm hoping to get as many venues as possible to put on some live music on one night. So we'll identify a night, and I will be just simply encouraging
like
venues.
an Edinburgh type festival type vibe.
A bit like that, where you can just wander around and see tons and tons of live music. But nice. I want, I'm not gonna be setting up all of that. Although I've got Chris Quinn is volunteering to help me with that, who's a fantastic local musician. So he's going to help pair up the musicians with the venues. And I am going to be saying to the venues, please pay the musicians. This is about
supporting
the musicians as much as about the music, because they're the ones who've been having a tough time. But there will also be a sort of a charity element. So because Lingan Davis is my chosen charity, they will then, once we've got these venues listed, they will then go back to the venues and say, okay, you can also support us by adding £1 to the pint, whatever it is, or to one of your things on your menu or something. They know what they're doing with all that, and they're keen to sort of to
May I ask a personal question? And this is for my own reasons, really. But why Lingan Davis?
Why Lingan? Because I had some personal experience with them. My dad died of prostate cancer about 11 years ago, I think.
Okay.
Now. And he actually. The collection at his funeral was split, and half of it went to them. So he'd obviously valued some of the care that they provided and some of the resources they provided in terms of cancer care at the Royal Shrewsbury Hospital, where he spent some of his time. And I've still got, I remember that I took the money along to Lingan Davis, after the funeral, and when you sort of give them a chunk of money, I don't know if they still do the same thing, but they gave me a voucher for a rose. From one of the big rose growers in North Shropshire, I can't remember exactly where. So I've still got that rose plant in my garden. So that's a nice memorial plant for my dad. So that was the reason I chose them.
The reason I ask is I've chosen them as a charity to help with an event I'm running.
Oh right.
What's the date? I'm thinking, can I mention the name? I'll mention it, and then what I've done is I've been talking about this thing and then bleeping out the name because we haven't released it yet. But we're doing a thing called Pod Aid in September. We're a 24-hour long podcast.
Oh yeah, you mentioned this to me.
Yeah. So Lingan Davis. And anyway, that's great. Live music though is I think it's such a noble cause, because I feel like there could be a generation of artists either lost or changed forever with what's going on with COVID at the moment. So going out there and supporting the people that can inspire the next generation of artists, I think this is hugely important. And I'd love to help out. If there's any way we can genuinely... I don't think I do enough for like unsigned bands and artists around here. So I feel like if there's any bands out there, Neville Street invited me to a gig at the old post office last week, I believe it was, and I couldn't go because I was on the radio, my radio show. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do Thursday nights, guys, ever. I'm on the radio for 3 hours, so I can't do it. So yeah, when do you reckon you're going to get this?
I'm hoping it'll be September. I mean, realistically, had we decided to do it in July, we'd have got shut down again, so I'm glad we didn't do that. And then August is
just avoid the 29th, because I've got some musicians coming from my my podcast.
yeah.
No, we'd love to be involved, so I'd love to do that. Music is a really good thing, and I guess coming to Shrewsbury with your background working with the homeless as well. I mean, I'm sorry to throw this at you.
Yeah.
And you're not here as a political figure, more of the mayor's role. But Shrewsbury's got a terrible problem at the moment. And I know there's a lot of support out there, especially with during lockdown. There was lots of help for them. Is there any way that you feel you could possibly help out?
I think what we've seen in the last year is that it is quite possible to get street homeless people into
the Prince
accommodation.
Rupert did it in one swoop, didn't they?
Exactly. And so you just wonder, well, if it's possible, why isn't it always being done? So I just think it's down to, it's clearly about a combination of different services because the people involved often have sort of multiple difficulties of one sort or another. It's not just about not having a home. Often it's about addiction and all sorts of other things and mental health issues. So all of that, all of those services need to be brought together. But the other thing that's been interesting about the COVID experience is that services have worked together in new ways. I was, when I had my second jab, it was interesting that the place is clearly being staffed by NHS staff, but actually the logistics, if you like, was run by somebody who works for Shropshire Council. And then a lot of the people there were volunteers. So all these people have come together. Yes. So we've shown a bit more flexibility and a bit more imagination in the way we do things, and I think that can be applied to street homelessness as well. So in terms of my personal involvement, my old job was not about street homelessness. It was a very different sort of role. So I'm not claiming any great skills in that area and any great knowledge about exactly what needs to be done. Although I do think, I do have to give a shout out to the Prince Rupert Hotel because I think that is just phenomenal what they did this year to support.
And the volunteers as well, the vaccination clinics, an amazing array of volunteers as well. My wife went to get hers done, and Simon Bell, who's a well-renowned author around here, was like, "Hello, Mrs. Whiteley." He recognised her, and she recognised him, and he's got that husky voice. He's like, "Oh, you're the wife of the biscuit guy."
Fantastic.
He volunteered. Great show. So, what's your diary looking like then? I imagine. I know everything's scaled back.
It is still fairly quiet. So what I can't remember exactly how many I've done, if you like, in terms of events. I've probably done 6 or 7. I've only got one next week. But that's but that's okay. That's I'm sure it will pick up. So can I plug next week's?
Yes, please do. You can plug whatever
So
you
next
like,
week I'm meeting the people who do the Shrewsbury canoe hire. But the reason I'm going along is because they're now launching an electric bike hire scheme.
Okay.
And that's very exciting. For me as a green mayor, green councillor, I'm very keen on that. So, and also I'm very keen because I'm actually going to buy myself an electric bike, but I've only ever been on one, so I want to give it a try. So Tuesday morning,
just one pedal and you're going 20 miles an hour.
Well,
oh my god!
I don't think it's quite that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Tuesday morning, I'll go and sort of celebrate them launching their electric bike hire and have a little go. So that's next week's. Yeah.
Oh, cool! That's really cool. I have spoken to them. It's very hard to pin them down because they're like, "Yeah, we run boats and stuff. We drive in and doing stuff." So trying to get them in a situation where I can shove a microphone in the face is very difficult. But we are in talks with them because they've got this amazing trip thing that they're doing. It is like where you can go and disappear for 2 days on a canoe or a kayak. Amazing stuff. I imagine it'll pick up soon.
Yeah,
I mean, when the events start going on, is it a case of let's have a look and see what's going on? Hello, I'm the mayor. Can I come along today? Or do you have to wait for an invite? How does that work?
It's a bit of both, I suppose. I mean, most of it is invitations, and a lot of it is sort of things that happen on an annual basis. So, remembrance service and all those sorts of things. So there's some which will happen. But then there are other things where, I mean, for example, I think I just saw the guy out trying out one of his electric bikes, and I'd heard that they were doing it, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to celebrate that for you, as now that I'm mayor, because it's something that I think is a really important part of how we transform the way we move about." So that was probably my initiative, that's why I'm out there with that one. So there's been a few like that. There's a couple of other things coming up. There's a guy who's organising a men's shed. And I can't remember how that worked. I think he contacted me actually, but we were already in touch sort of on Twitter. So yeah, you're looking curious. So Men's Shed it's a sort of support mechanism for often, blokes who are, a bit older and perhaps lonely and perhaps struggling in life.
Like a youth club, but for older people.
That's a really good way of putting it, I think. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he describes it as a, women's institute for men. So, but I like yours.
Brilliant.
I like yours, the youth club. Yeah. So because it will be, it will be a shed. It will have tools.
Guys
it will
playing cards, playing dominoes, listening to the football.
Yeah. No, I think it's more practical. I think it is literally practical, and it might well be that they pair up with other ideas. Like there's a repair cafe in town, for example. So it might be that that this was something I was chatting to him about. That it could be that it will take on a bit of a role like that, because quite often they sort of make things and sell things, and there's just to try and finance it. And I think it's he's got a site which I think, I'm not sure if I can say where it is yet, so I better not.
I'd love to get in touch with them though.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I will put you in touch, because it'll be an exciting initiative. There are already some men's sheds around in the rest of the country, and indeed in the rest of the county, but there isn't one in Shrewsbury. So
Yet. Yeah, that'd be really good. Turn up with a microphone, sit down, chat to the guys, see what's going on. That'd be really good. There is so much going on though. I mean, this week I've been so busy. I did 3 interviews yesterday. I did the Secret Art exhibition on the radio with them today. The next weekend we've got the battle reenactment, the Battle of Shrewsbury, which is going on. You should try and get yourself into that. It sounds very amazing. It sounds really cool. There's going to be lots of people in chainmail and helmets swinging swords. And it's the Battle of Shrewsbury reenactment. And then Matthew Howarth, who's running it, he messaged me last night. I was like, the Scots are coming. So apparently there's people coming down to play the Scottish. They're getting lots of people involved with stuff like that. Can I speak about being a Green politician? Because it does intrigue me, because I explained to you my political stance when I walked in. I'm kind of like, if you're left, if you're right, just be decent. I'm kind of just in the middle, kind of like, let's just look after people, When becoming a Green politician, does that add extra sort of expectation on you? And can you do certain things that I don't know, maybe you're worried about how people might perceive you by doing a certain thing? You can't drive around in a Hummer because they'll be like, oh, how much to the gallon is that then? Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because there does seem to be What do people expect from a Green politician? Yeah, I think they do expect us to be personally fairly green. Mm-hmm. I think that's true, which is reasonable.
Yes.
And
I think everybody should be try to a bit.
Absolutely. But what's really been interesting is that the conversations that I have are not so much about, oh, do you drive then, or or do you eat meat? People don't do that. What they do is they say, I recycle this, or I have started doing this. Or, so people actually...
I bought a wooden toothbrush the other day.
There you go, see? People take the opportunity to celebrate their own sort of changes in habits, which we all need to do. So that's great. So that just opens up a conversation. So that's fantastic. I mean, these personal habits are part of the story, but they're only part of the story. We've got so much that we have to do as a from the point of view of the government, and changing the way that industry does things, and changing the way we do transport, and that's why the politics of it is so important. But the personal stuff is part of that, and it's also part of what puts pressure on all those people. I
mean, the reason I ask is because obviously the way people think about politicians in general, and I'm sorry to all the yourself and all the politicians, it causes arguments on Facebook. People are like, this is wrong, this is wrong. But then when you add on to something like the Green Party or something, whenever I see a post of Extinction Rebellion, I'm not comparing you guys to Extinction Rebellion, but say something happens with them, it causes so much anger and animosity on straight away. So I feel like add that plus politics, it's the fuel fire, napalm. How is that for you? I mean, it's like you're putting a target on your back. Is this the right way of doing it? Describing it. Sorry, I'm struggling with words.
No, I think I do get you. I do get exactly what
I'm trying to say it without being offensive. I'm trying not to be.
I think of course there's the potential for rows, and social media is a great forum for that. And because you're not looking at the whites of people's eyes, people get away with being much ruder on social media.
Oh God, it's terrible.
But I think actually when you meet people, it's not like that. And also I think that that there is a way of doing it which doesn't involve rows. It involves listening to people. So so you've asked me about the politics, so I'll talk about so if I look at my area, for example, where I'm a councillor, and I got re-elected in May, and my majority went up, and I think that is because people know that I actually do listen and engage in conversation. And so, for example, we've got you probably know there's I mean, the cones are really annoying at the moment, but we've got a little one-way system down by New Street, by the boathouse, and that was something that people down there had wanted actually well before I'd been a councillor, or they'd wanted something, they'd wanted some safety measures. But exactly what it looked like, that came out of a huge amount of consultation and listening to people, and I think people felt listened to and felt that they'd had a chance to have a say. And I do think that's if you like, that's our brand. That's what green politicians try and do. So yes, we have solutions up our sleeves. We have things that we want to be doing that transform the world. But we also, we think that those things are, generally speaking, actually improve people's lives. They're also about the long-term future. They're about making sure that the planet doesn't destroy itself. But in the medium and short term, they actually also make our lives better and healthier. And so as long as you engage with people and talk to them about that and do it, in detail and actually hear what people are saying and don't just, pretend to hear it, then you don't get into those. That's the ideal world.
I think that's the ideal world we all want to live in. And, people that naysay to any sort of green ideas on Facebook, by the way, I do look at some of the comments sometimes, but I can't respond because my name is attached to the biscuit. It's not worth it, right? But so I just don't get involved. But I mean, for example, the Shrewsbury Food Hub, right? Yeah. If everybody was kind of like, oh, well, we're not doing this because we don't believe in it. If everybody was like that, then the Shrewsbury Food Hub wouldn't be doing what it's doing today, saving the amount of carbon that it saves and feeding people across Shrewsbury. And that's because people were open-minded and thought, actually, we'll stop and think about this for a second. Yeah. And I appreciate that in anybody that does that. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hoodwink you by, let's talk about politics. I don't like talking about politics, in all honesty.
Yeah, well, I would have talked about politics the whole time if you hadn't stopped me, so it's probably good that you didn't, that we started with music.
I usually stay away from it, but I'm like, I'm in front of a politician. You can't not. Has there been many events that people have come out to you? I know you're saying your diary's not massively full, but is there any events and you're going, I can't go to that? Like, do you want to come watch the football with spoons with us or something? There probably are a couple where I'm a bit unsure, but because I'm unsure, I don't really want to talk about them too much because I've got to think it through and talk to other people. Yeah. Because as I say, I'm there. I'm representing Shrewsbury, but there are a couple of situations where actually I'll think, hang on a minute, is that crossing a line for me personally? But I think generally speaking, I will do things because I'm the mayor, and I always knew that was the deal. You are coming to our event, aren't you? The Pod Age thing. So we will see you there. We'll do the same thing, but it'll be live. Live on StreamYard from the whole world. I mean, I'm feeling very optimistic about a 24-hour live podcast where people are going to be working, but it'd be fun. I mean, it's nice to be included into things. Have you tried your chains on yet, by the way? Have you been wearing your chains?
So there's two different chains, it turns out. There's the everyday chain. I mean, it's still not, obviously, it's a mayoral chain, so it's not an everyday chain, but it's a bit lighter. And yes, I've used that one several times, but I haven't used the really big ceremonial one in anger yet. That's just been for the photo shoot so far, and that's a much more substantial thing. Apparently, that one is kept somewhere very secure.
I imagine. I like your stance on things. I really do. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of people that have been waiting years and years and years to become the mayor, and they splash out on these really expensive suits and. They're, a bit like what I was joking about earlier. Like I want everything in the ceremony. I want this, that, and the other. You're just very down to earth. Yeah, I'll buy a suit from a charity shop. I don't mind. I mean, I really like that because that's how I would do it. I mean, to be fair, there are people with money out there that probably do podcasts a lot better than I do, and I rock up with all this battered old kit that I've collected over the years because that's the way I do things. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you to ask you to get involved with an event or to maybe put on an event to help out your cause with Ling and Davis, how would they get in touch with you?
So the easiest way is just to look for the Shrewsbury Town Council website, and then I think there's a contact the mayor sort of button on there somewhere. But equally, my details as a councillor, Julian Dean, is on the town council site. It's on the Shropshire Council site because I'm a Shropshire councillor as well as a town councillor. Yeah, but probably the town council website is the best place to go, because then there's one of the members of staff there, Carol. She helps out a lot, and she manages the diary a little bit, and so that's the best way to do it.
Amazing. Well, I wish you the best of luck with this. It looks like it looks like you're having fun already. You just
I think
it in
so.
stride.
Yeah. The only it's just a bit weird being called Mr. Mayor by people. That's still something.
I struggle with that. I mean, I try and shorten my name as possible, as short as possible. Al, just call me Al. Al's fine. Just do that. What's the thing you're looking forward to the most this year?
Well, I am looking forward to this music event. That's great. And then I've got my second sort of initiative is I'm going to do something. I want to do a walking festival in the spring.
Ooh.
So I'd already done something actually a couple of years ago. I'd started this thing called Big Town Walks, which was about celebrating, the walking routes in the town. So it wasn't going out to the hills, and it was really about trying to encourage people to enjoy walking about the town who aren't the normal aren't the people who have walking boots. It didn't quite work. It was good. It was nice, but we didn't get enough people. The publicity came out a bit late. The routes were too long. They were actually completely shattered by the end of the one I did. So we need some shorter routes. But there's lots of enthusiasm. Lots of people are saying, "Yeah, I'd love to help with that." Ling and Davis are really excited about that idea as well. So I've got to do some work to get that together, and that hopefully will be in the spring. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Shrewsbury's it's a maze, isn't it? I remember the first time. I'd only ever just walked on the main roads here, there, and the first time I walked through town with Shane, my co-host, who's born and bred Shrewsbury, was like, "We're going to duck in here, we're going to go down here, down this little alleyway, through here, down this hill." I was just kind of like, "Where are you taking me?" It was so scary. Absolutely, it was weird, all the shuts and passages and stuff. It's so brilliant. I'm going to tell people about the event that we got coming up in September, which I've mentioned 2 times already.
Yeah.
Which is, so Pod Aid on the 29th of September at 9 a.m. I'm going to go live with the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We're not going to stop until 9 a.m. on the 30th, which is International Podcast Day. The guys at International Podcast Day are aware of what we're doing in LA, and they are going to be appearing on the show.
Fantastic.
So it's going to be 12 hours of the Shrewsbury Biscuit and 12 hours of USUK, US UK, my other network that we're going to do. The Shrewsbury Biscuit schedule is filling up quite nicely. We've got some people great people coming for USUK as well. So a couple of celebrities. But what we do need is sponsors. We're selling sponsored hours. Now there's been a bit of confusion because I first started selling these at £50 an hour minimum donation towards Ling and Davis. But we had a meeting with our main sponsors, Reach, and they were like, "That's peanuts. That's peanuts to a lot of companies. £100 and then £200 for prime time." So I was like, £100, okay, well. Okay, I feel uncomfortable for selling that, but for £100, what you get is an hour of this hour is brought to you by Alex Widely, sort of thing, and then we'll put your logos on the screen, and that money, all of it, 100% of it, will go to Ling and Davis. So if you do the maths, people, if we sell 24 hours at £100, how much are we making for Ling and Davis? That's £2,400. So that's an amazing chance to make some great money. You can get involved with us by hitting our website, which is the shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. There is a contact us option on the page there, and that's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. And you can listen to all our audio on there as well. Everything's on there. We've done 40 minutes. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Is there any messages you wanted to tell the listeners?
Any messages? No, I don't know. I don't think so. No, other than I think if you've got something happening and you want a bit of publicity, I mean, obviously come to you.
Yes,
but they can also come to me as mayor. So if there's things happening that you think it would be nice to have the mayor along to, then please do get in touch.
Yes. And be kind, people. I see you on Facebook. I see you. I'm not commenting, but I see you. Lots of animosity on the Shropshire Star. and on you from Shrewsbury when that group there. I love that group. They're great people, but I see that negativity. Be positive. Do something good today. I mean, I did an interview with Richard Smith, who's an ex-teacher, and he's doing this thing called the 30 minutes of good, it's called. And it's the idea is you go to the website and there's all these challenges of doing these things for like 30 minutes a day. Yeah. So research on how to do animal rescue, and then you learn about animal rescue, or make a bit of music, or all these things. That's all positive stuff. So let's do positive.
I think that's right. I think again, one of the things that we've seen this last year has been incredible mutual aid. I was involved in setting up a mutual aid, Facebook group in Frankwell along with actually Tim, who I mentioned earlier from St George's Church, and several other people. And it was huge. Loads of people signed up and volunteered to help out, and then some other people set one up in Copthorne, which had loads of people. And I know there were others as well.
I think Jamie Russell, who I spoke to, is a local author. Jamie Russell,
I know. So Jamie's he's an ally of mine.
I spoke to him yesterday, just yesterday. Yeah. He's a great guy. It's really funny. We we were chatting to each other for about 40 minutes until we recognised each other. Our kids go to Taekwondo together, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're the guy from Taekwondo!" He's like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you were the biscuit guy." It's really funny.
So his book came out yesterday, didn't it? I think, is that right?
Skywake, I think. I don't know the release date. I should do really.
I'm pretty sure the official release date was yesterday.
But we interviewed him, and it was a really cool interview. But I took up this little bit. I called it Jamie Russell Path, and it's because my mind just melted. I was talking about Carl Jones from Shropshire Business Magazine, and I was like, so I was speaking to Carl Jones, who's a movie critic from but my mind just melted like right there, and I thought I'm going to take that out and have some fun with that, because I like to be really honest with my audio, just show people that I'm a bit of an idiot, really, Just I'd like to make this as it is. You've been amazing to speak to. So, I mean, thank you so much for inviting me here today.
You're welcome.
And if I see you about, I may shove a microphone in your face. Just be prepared for that.
Okay,
the Shrewsbury Biscuit tends to be everywhere at the moment. And guys, if you do have an event coming up and you do want the mayor involved or the Shrewsbury Biscuit, get in touch with either of us. We'll bump into each other again, guaranteed, this year. Congratulations on becoming the mayor, and I hope you have a great year.
Thank you. Yeah, and looking forward to your 24-hour gig.
You're coming quite early on. I think it's like 2 p.m. I think you're coming or something like that. I think.
Right. Yeah.
Possibly earlier. I can't remember the time. So we have a live thing, but you're coming on early on. I mean, if you're coming at like 8 a.m. the next morning, you might get a different version of Alex. Like, just get a seat, sit down, it's fine. Thank you very much. And listeners, make sure you tune in next time and tell people about the Shrewsbury Biscuit. It's doing great things around the town. We'll catch you next time. Peace out.